All right, continuing on here with part two of the problems with industrialized agriculture. So we've talked about problems with the soil as far as soil erosion, which leads to loss of soil fertility and leads to dead zones in the ocean. I've mentioned problems with excessive irrigation, which leads to the soil becoming too salty, soil salinization. Using excessive irrigation can also lead to waterlogging of the soil, which can kill the plants and again deposit too much salts in there. And a third problem with industrialized agriculture goes hand in hand with increased temperatures and desertification. And another problem, not so much with the soil, but another problem that we have here is the fact that industrialized agriculture is an energy loss. Look at all of these ways that we need energy in order to produce our crops. We need energy in the form of burning fossil fuels from tractors and things to grow, store, process, transport. Now we've planted the crops, we've maintained them, we've harvested them, all of which require energy in some way, shape, or form. Now we have to transport our crops to a processing facility. And that's going to require fossil fuels, most likely. Packaging them, transporting them to the stores, etc., etc. So all in all, industrialized agriculture is a net energy loss. Your textbook uses this number. I have seen it in other places, that we need approximately 10 units of fossil fuel energy, because that's what the United States relies on, for the most part, fossil fuels, not so much renewables, to produce just one single unit of food energy. And so this is the big thing here, is that industrialized agriculture is a net loser of energy. Another issue with industrialized agriculture, losses of biodiversity. That's huge. What's happening in a lot of places of the world is that our old growth forests are being chopped or cleared and replaced with these monoculture croplands. So we're not only losing the plants in the grasslands and the forest, but we're losing any animal life that might be there as well. These monocultures are not so great for biodiversity either, because the monocultures tend to all have the exact same genetic makeup, which means they could be very susceptible to diseases coming through and wiping them out because there's no genetic diversity. So polycultures are much better in terms of maintaining diversity. With the fear of losing a lot of our plant species around the world, what some people, I'm not sure who first came up with the idea, but what we have around the world is a seed bank. It's in Svalbard, Norway, and there is a global seed bank in Svalbard, Norway, which is up near the Arctic Circle. It's about, I think, a few hundred miles away from the Arctic Circle. It's in the middle of nowhere, and what countries around the world have done is ship their seeds from any crops that they have. They're shipping seeds to this seed bank. The seed bank is installed in the side of a mountain. It's like a giant freezer. So not only is it a giant freezer, but in the event of some issue and the freezers, the coolers, turn off, it's in the side of a mountain near the Arctic, which means there's permafrost and snow surrounding it. And so now these seeds are going to be like doubly protected. Here's a couple of pictures, or here's a map showing you where the Svalbard Global Seed Vault is located. And here is just an idea of what's going on in the seed vault. I believe every country in the world has donated seeds to the seed vault. Even North Korea has seeds in the seed vault. And here's what the front entrance looks like. Like I said, it's like literally in the side of a mountain. As far as I can recall off the top of my head, there's at least 1 million different types of seeds in the seed vault. You know, it's there as an insurance policy, just in case something were to happen. It's like a safe deposit box at the bank. This is where our most important seeds for our valuable crops are being stored. You might have seen something about the seed vault in the news. What was it? Last year, 2 years, relatively recently. Can't remember when exactly. There was flooding. What had unfortunately happened was that some of the permafrost in this region is melting because of, increased temperatures. And so there was flooding in this main entranceway. And that went all over the news, like, oh my God, the seed vault is flooding. But it was nowhere near where the plants are, or where the seeds are being stored. It was just in this main entranceway. There's still, they got it all fixed up, patched up, so that hopefully with more and more permafrost melting, there won't be any more flooding going on. So if you're interested in learning more about it, get on YouTube and type in Svalbard. I'm just showing you that so you can spell it correctly. Svalbard seed vault, and there's a bunch of different videos on there. I think the one I like is about 9 minutes. I think it's called Inside the Svalbard seed vault. So check that out if you get a chance. So some more problems with industrialized agriculture, moving away from crops and moving towards the animals. Again, obviously with growing of animals, we require a lot of cropland, a lot of water for those animals. This little pros and cons or advantages and disadvantages table came right out of your textbook, so you can read through that. Livestock, which includes cows, pigs, chickens, produces 20 times more waste than humans, at least here in the United States. So that's a huge problem. About 16% of methane emissions. Now remember, methane is one of your big global greenhouse gases, although not the most potent one. The most potent or the strongest greenhouse gas, the one that traps the most heat, is nitrous oxide, but methane is bad as well. And so with all these CAFOs, confined animal feeding operations, you get a lot of concentrated amounts of methane being produced with their belching and their pooping. And so that's a big issue as well. Some problems with aquaculture or fish farming. Again, right out of your textbook, some pros and cons. It depends on where we're setting up the farming operation for these fish farms. If it's a coastal operation like shrimp farms, which I had mentioned to you guys before, it could be a problem because we're clearing away mangroves to make way for the shrimp farms. If it's an onshore operation, then it might not be as problematic with destruction of land, but it just depends on what we're talking about. Fish farming itself, if it's out in the open, if it's like a net pen, can be problematic, as you can see with this picture here. If you have wild species or wild fishes swimming near the net pens, the wild fish can get diseases passed on to them because these the farmed fish have been inoculated. They're getting vaccines and then put into these net pens. So obviously the wild fish are not being inoculated. They don't have vaccines out in the wild. And so the wild fish happen to swim by the farmed fish and they can get diseases passed on to them. Juvenile salmon, wild salmon, for example, are known to get sea lice passed on to them from the farmed fish. And so this is another problem with aquaculture operations, that we could be inadvertently harming wild fish populations. And then here, this is just kind of summing everything up. Everything that I've been talking about with all the problems with industrialized agriculture, ranging from problems with the loss of biodiversity, soil problems, the mass consumption of water, the mass amounts of greenhouse gases that are produced, and then human health problems as well. So this final picture here really sums everything up. But industrialized agriculture is not all horrible. I mean, it's bad for the environment, but that's what we have. That's what we have to feed all 7.5 billion of us on the planet. And so in the next videos, we're going to get into potential solutions to deal with these problems. So I'm not just giving you the bad, I'm giving you the potential good as well, and things that we can do to make it better. And then here, just something totally random. The key to eating healthy: avoid any food that has a TV commercial. We want to try to eat things that are being naturally grown, that don't have excessive packaging and all things like excess sugars and, all that bad stuff. All right, so that leads me to my last section, solutions to deal with these problems that we are facing with industrialized agriculture. And that's going to be another set of videos. So that's it. Ta-ta for now.